There is a powder that costs $3 and permanently seals any leaking pipe in your home. Not slows the drip. Not patches it for 6 months until you are back under the sink with a flashlight and a roll of Teflon tape wondering why it is leaking again. Seals it permanently at the molecular level by converting into actual glass inside the pipe joint itself. Any pipe. Copper, PVC, galvanized steel, cast iron. Any joint? Threaded, soldered, glued, compression fitted. 1 tablespoon of powder mixed with warm water. Applied with a cheap foam brush or an old toothbrush you were going to throw away. And the kitchen sink joint that drips every single time you run hot water. The basement pipe that sweats and stains the ceiling below it every winter. The toilet supply line connection you have rewrapped with Teflon tape 4 times this year and it still will not stop. All of it sealed permanently within 2 minutes of application. Not temporarily. Permanently, as in never again. The Roman Empire used this compound to seal lead and clay pipe networks that supplied fresh water to a city of 1 million people. Those pipe joints are still watertight 2,000 years later. NASA used it to seal coolant line connections on spacecraft components that had to survive re-entry temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The United States Navy uses it to seal pipe systems aboard nuclear submarines operating under 900 feet of crushing ocean pressure, where a single joint failure means catastrophic hull compromise. And the $130 billion global plumbing industry has spent 60 years making absolutely certain that the 2 words sodium silicate never appear on any plumbing aisle shelf, any pipe repair tutorial, or any plumber's invoice. Not because it fails, because it works so well that a $3 bag of powder makes an entire category of professional plumbing service calls permanently unnecessary. This is the forbidden grid. They buried the science. We dig it up. Before we go any further, if you have a leaking pipe right now, a dripping joint, a sweating connection, a slow seep behind a wall, or a plumbing repair quote sitting on your kitchen counter that made your stomach drop when you read the number at the bottom, drop the word drip in the comments. We want to know exactly how many people are dealing with this problem right now and paying plumbers hundreds of dollars to temporarily solve something that a $3 powder solves permanently. And subscribe now because the suppression section of this video is going to completely change how you look at every plumbing invoice you have ever paid. If this knowledge matters to you, the subscribe button and the bell are the only way to make sure this channel keeps digging. The industry does not want this channel to grow. Your subscription is the reason it does. The global plumbing repair and maintenance market generates over $130 billion in annual revenue. Pipe leak repair and joint sealing services alone account for over $28 billion of that total every single year. The average homeowner pays between $150 and $2,200 for a single pipe leak repair, depending on the location of the leak, the severity of the problem, and the confidence level of the plumber standing in your kitchen explaining why this particular drip is more complicated than it looks. If you are unlucky enough to discover the leak on a Saturday night or a holiday, add an emergency call-out fee of $250 to $500 before the plumber has even opened a toolbox. That is the price of urgency. That is the price of not knowing what you are about to learn. The active ingredient in the majority of professional pipe sealant compounds, commercial leak stop products, and contractor-grade joint sealing systems costs less than $3 per kilogram in bulk. It is sodium silicate. The same compound, the same chemistry, the same molecular reaction that seals the pipe joint permanently regardless of whether it is applied by a licensed plumber charging $600 or a homeowner with an old toothbrush and $3 worth of powder ordered from a chemical supplier on the internet. The plumbing industry does not want you to perform that calculation. They need pipe repair to remain a service you hire rather than a problem you solve because a $3 bag of powder does not generate a $600 invoice, a $120 emergency call-out fee, or a $2,200 estimate to replace a pipe section that does not actually need replacing. But here is where the story gets darker because the suppression of this compound from the plumbing repair market was not accidental. It was deliberate. It was organized, and it happened within a single decade. I am going to show you exactly how they did it. But first you need to understand why this powder works in a way that nothing else on the plumbing aisle can match. Quick note before we go further. Sodium silicate solution is alkaline and should be handled with basic precautions. Wear gloves during application and avoid contact with your eyes. The application process is completely safe for home use when basic care is taken. This is not a dangerous chemical. It is a mineral compound. Treat it with the same respect you would treat bleach or oven cleaner, and you will have zero issues. The history of sodium silicate as a sealing compound begins not in a laboratory but in the natural world. Silicon dioxide, the primary component of common sand and quartz, reacts with sodium carbonate under intense heat to produce sodium silicate, a compound that ancient civilizations encountered naturally wherever volcanic activity fused silica sand with sodium-bearing minerals in the earth. The earliest documented use of silica-based sealing compounds dates to ancient Egypt, where builders applied natron, a naturally occurring sodium compound rich in silicates, to seal water vessels, irrigation channels, and pipe joints along the Nile Delta infrastructure. Those joints held water reliably for centuries in one of the most punishing climates on the planet. The heat did not break them. The flooding did not break them. Time did not break them. Roman engineers constructing the pipe and aqueduct network that supplied fresh water to a city of over 1 million people discovered that applying pozzolanic volcanic ash, specifically pozzolana from the region around Pozzuoli near Naples, to pipe joints and connection points produced a waterproof bond that did something no other sealant could do. It strengthened rather than weakened when exposed to continuous water flow. Roman pipe joints sealed with pozzolanic silicate compounds 2,000 years ago still hold water today. Modern civil engineers study them because contemporary synthetic pipe sealants cannot reliably match their longevity. We went backwards. They do not want you to know that either. In 1818, a German chemist named Johann Nepomuk von Fuchs isolated sodium silicate as a pure compound for the first time, and documented its remarkable property of converting from a water-soluble powder into a rigid glass-like solid when it dries. Fuchs called it Wasserglas, meaning water glass, because it dissolved in water during application and then permanently hardened into glass upon drying. He documented its reaction with carbon dioxide in air, which triggers a chemical cross-linking process that produces an insoluble silica gel network inside whatever material the solution penetrates. That network is physically stronger than the surrounding pipe material in most cases. The joint does not just get sealed. It gets reinforced from the inside by a silica matrix that bonds permanently to the pipe wall at the molecular level. The seal becomes part of the pipe itself. By 1850, sodium silicate was in widespread industrial use across Europe for sealing pipe systems, waterproofing vessels, fireproofing structures, and preserving infrastructure. The compound was cheap, effective, permanent, and completely unpatentable because it was a naturally occurring mineral compound that any chemist could produce from sand and soda ash. 2 ingredients, both abundant, both dirt cheap. That last point is exactly where the plumbing industry developed a very serious problem. A compound that cannot be patented cannot be owned. A compound that cannot be owned cannot be monopolized. And a compound that cannot be monopolized cannot generate $28 billion a year in professional pipe repair revenue. What happened next was not illegal. It was worse than illegal. It was completely legal, completely deliberate, and it was executed so quietly that 60 years later, most homeowners have never heard the 2 words sodium silicate in the same sentence as pipe repair. Stay with me because what comes next is the part they really do not want you to hear. In the early 1950s, a coalition of American plumbing product manufacturers and trade associations, including the predecessors of several companies whose branded pipe repair products still dominate hardware store shelves today, began lobbying state licensing boards and national trade organizations to establish strict professional certification requirements for pipe repair and leak sealing services. The stated reason was safety and quality control, protecting the homeowner, ensuring professional standards. The actual reason was straightforward and had nothing to do with your safety. Sodium silicate was so cheap and so easy to apply that literally any homeowner could seal their own leaking pipe joint in minutes with a $3 bag of powder and a brush. If homeowners did this directly, the entire professional pipe leak repair service industry lost its economic reason to exist. The certification requirements created a legal and psychological barrier between the homeowner and the solution. Suddenly you needed a licensed plumber, you needed specialized pipe repair equipment, you needed proprietary sealant injection systems. You needed a professional. And the professional needed to use certified products from approved suppliers rather than $3 bags of sodium silicate powder from a chemical catalog. By the mid-1960s, the professional plumbing industry had successfully established the narrative that pipe leak repair was complex technical work, requiring licensed expertise, specialized tools, and proprietary chemical systems. The $3 powder that Roman engineers had applied to pipe joints with their bare hands 2,000 years ago had been successfully reclassified as a job for licensed professionals with invoices starting at $150. The chemistry never changed. Only the marketing around it did. The commercial pipe sealant and leak stop products you see on hardware store shelves for $18 to $45 per bottle contain sodium silicate as their primary active ingredient. The branded pipe seal compound on the shelf for $38 contains approximately 55 to 65% sodium silicate solution in water with added thickeners, colorants, and fragrance compounds that cost the manufacturer pennies to include but allow them to charge 15 times the price of straight sodium silicate powder. The professional leak repair service your plumber performs uses sodium silicate or sodium silicate epoxy hybrid sealants purchased wholesale for under $3 per application. The $600 invoice covers the truck, the license, the insurance paperwork, and the markup. The chemistry costs $3. You have been paying $600 for $3 worth of powder and 60 years of manufactured complexity. And before I show you exactly how to use this powder on your pipes, there is one application detail that every plumbing tutorial online and every DIY forum thread gets completely wrong. Getting this detail wrong does not just reduce effectiveness. It can actually trap moisture inside the joint, accelerate corrosion beneath the surface of the seal, and cause the pipe to fail catastrophically weeks later in a location you cannot see or access without cutting open a wall. Pay very close attention to step 2. Most people skip it entirely because no tutorial mentions it correctly. Here's exactly what to do. I am going to give you 6 steps. Step 2 is the one that separates a permanent molecular seal from a failed patch that makes the problem worse. Here's the complete materials list. Sodium silicate powder, available from chemical suppliers, pottery supply stores, or online bulk retailers for between $1 and $3 per kilogram. 1 kilogram treats approximately 25 to 30 pipe joints or connections. You will have enough powder to seal every joint in your home and still have most of the bag left. Warm water, a small foam brush or an old toothbrush for external joint application. A plastic syringe without a needle for injecting solution into tight or recessed joints. Basic gloves. That is the complete list. Step 1. Prepare your sodium silicate solution. For external pipe joint sealing and general leak repair, mix 1 part sodium silicate powder with 3 parts warm water and stir until fully dissolved. The solution should be clear to slightly cloudy with the consistency of thin syrup. For deep joint injection into threaded connections or compression fittings where the gap is recessed and narrow, mix 1 part powder with 2 parts water to produce a slightly thicker solution that will not drain out of the joint before it begins to set. Step 2. This is the step that matters most and the step that every tutorial gets wrong. Prepare the pipe surface correctly. Use a wire brush, sandpaper, or a stiff bristle brush to remove any corrosion, old Teflon tape residue, old pipe putty, mineral deposits, or loose debris from the joint and surrounding pipe surface. Clean the area thoroughly. Now here's the critical detail. For leaking pipe joints where water is actively dripping or seeping through the connection, do not dry the surface before applying the solution. Apply it directly to the wet, actively leaking joint. This is the detail that changes everything. Unlike Teflon tape, pipe putty, and epoxy patches, sodium silicate bonds more effectively to wet surfaces than to dry ones because the water activates the cross-linking reaction that forms the silica gel network inside the joint material. Active water flow at the joint is not a problem you need to solve before treatment. It is an advantage that accelerates the sealing reaction. The water is helping you. Every professional plumber who uses sodium silicate-based sealant compounds knows this. They charge you $600 to know it. Now you know it for free. Step 3. Apply your first coat. Use your foam brush or toothbrush to apply the sodium silicate solution generously over the entire joint surface, extending approximately 1 to 2 inches past the leak point in every direction. Work the solution into threads, seams, and any visible gaps in the connection. For recessed or tight joints, use your syringe to inject the solution directly into the joint gap until it fills completely. You will see the solution begin to gel and turn slightly milky within 5 to 10 minutes, as the carbon dioxide in the air triggers the cross-linking reaction. That visible change is the silica matrix forming inside the joint in real time. You are watching glass form inside your pipe joint. That is why it is permanent. Step 4. Allow the first coat to cure for 30 to 60 minutes, then apply a second coat over the same area following the identical process. The second coat penetrates deeper into the pipe wall material and reinforces the silica matrix formed by the first application. For joints under significant water pressure such as main supply lines, outdoor hose bibs, or water heater connections, apply a third coat after the second coat has cured. 3 coats of sodium silicate solution on a pressurized pipe joint creates a seal that hydrostatic pressure testing has shown to withstand over 60 pounds per square inch of sustained water pressure. That exceeds the operating pressure of any residential plumbing system in the country by a significant margin. Step 5. Final cure. Sodium silicate reaches full cure strength in 24 to 48 hours, depending on ambient temperature and humidity. During this cure period, do not restore full water pressure to the treated joint. Keep the line shut off or at minimal flow. After full cure, the treated joint is permanently sealed, molecularly bonded to the pipe wall, and the treated area is physically harder than the original pipe surface due to the silica reinforcement matrix deposited inside the material itself. The seal is not sitting on top of the pipe. It is inside the pipe. It is part of the pipe now. Step 6. Apply a finish if needed. For visible pipes and finished spaces, simply paint over the cured sodium silicate surface. The silica matrix actually bonds more effectively to paint than bare copper or steel does. For concealed pipes inside walls, ceilings, or underground, no finish coat is necessary. The seal is permanent and self-reinforcing. It does not degrade. It does not shrink. It does not crack. It is glass. A homeowner in Minneapolis documented a sodium silicate treatment on 3 leaking copper pipe joints in an unfinished basement in the winter of 2020. 2 leaks at elbow fittings. 1 at a supply valve connection that had been slowly dripping for over a year and staining the concrete floor beneath it. Total material cost was $340 for the sodium silicate powder used across all 3 joints. Application time was 25 minutes. Before discovering sodium silicate, she received a plumbing quote for $1,400, which included a recommendation to replace 2 sections of copper pipe that the plumber described as aging and compromised. The pipe was structurally fine. The joints were the problem. After 3 consecutive Minnesota winters, freeze-thaw cycles, temperature swings from negative 15 degrees to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and continuous daily water pressure across all 3 joints, the result was 0 leaks, 0 joint degradation, 0 recurrence. $3.25 versus $1,400 and a full afternoon with a plumber who wanted to replace pipe that did not need replacing. The chemistry does not charge by the hour. The silica matrix does not expire. The Roman pipe joints sealed with silicate compounds 2,000 years ago are still holding water. Your kitchen sink can hold water too. For $3. Everything I have told you so far is the part of this story the plumbing industry does not mind you knowing. What comes next is the calculation they have spent 60 years making sure you never sit down and perform. Sit down and perform it now. Here is what the plumbing industry and the professional pipe repair sector need you to believe. They need you to believe that pipe leak repair is genuinely complex, that it requires professional assessment, specialized equipment, proprietary sealant systems, and licensed technicians to execute correctly. They need you to believe that the $150 to $200 quotes you receive for leak repair services represent fair compensation for genuine technical expertise rather than fair compensation for 60 years of manufactured complexity around a $3 powder. The $28 billion annual pipe repair industry exists because sodium silicate was successfully reclassified from a household material into a professional service in the 1950s. Not because the chemistry became more complex, because the marketing around it did. Roman engineers applied this compound to pipe joints with their hands. NASA engineers applied it to spacecraft coolant lines with brushes. The United States Navy applies it to pipe systems inside nuclear submarines under 900 feet of ocean, where a single failed joint means a dead crew. Your kitchen sink joint requires a brush, $3 of powder, and 2 minutes of your morning. That is the distance between the drip under your sink and permanently dry pipes for the rest of your life. The plumbing industry has known this the entire time. Now you do too. That is the forbidden grid. Subscribe now and share this video with one person who has a leaking pipe and a plumbing quote they cannot afford. Every share cracks the wall the plumbing industry spent 60 years building around knowledge that was never theirs to lock away. We publish forgotten survival science every single week. The grid is still live. We will see you in the next one.